Ladies and gentlemen, RosterWatch Nation, welcome back to the epic RosterWatch Podcast, brought to you by RosterWatch.com. My name is Alex Dunlap, here with Byron Lambert. As you can tell, we're getting ready for the Senior Bowl. I have my Senior Bowl garb on, or if you're listening to the podcast, you can imagine me having a Senior Bowl jacket on, having a little bit of a what do they call these raccoon eye suntans, Byron, and some cracked lips from being up there in the stands with that wind whistling through Hancock Whitney Stadium. You're back in Florida. I'm back in Texas. What the hell's going on, brother?
I was just getting fired up to watch this game. I always like seeing how the fallout is. Always some really bizarre players pop up in the game, and rarely does the score end up the way that you expect it to.
I'll be excited. I had to leave practice a little bit early on Thursday because I drove in from Austin to Mobile, and maybe you saw. Did you see? Because you said that Mac Jones, and we'll go position by position. We'll talk quarterback, wide receiver, running back, and tight end. But Mac Jones, the Alabama quarterback, clearly the quarterback position kind of starts and ends with him. Did you see him at the end of practice running in a touchdown, which sounds pretty amazing to consider based on the fact that I didn't see much mobility from him during the week as far as ability to hurt with his legs. But did you see him kind of hurt an ankle or hurt a hamstring or something? I'm a little bit worried he might not play today.
I didn't see that, but I did text you about that awesome scramble he had to get the ball into the end zone. He really, really showed off excellent scrambling ability and just pretty good. I mean, he can run pretty well. I didn't know he could move like that. So we had been talking earlier in the week, kind of joking around saying he's not a Josh Allen, he's not a Daniel Jones, but I think he's a little bit closer to Daniel Jones. I mean, Daniel Jones can really run, but Mac Jones has legitimate real scrambling ability. And I'm actually going to take this opportunity right here, right now, to plant my flag in the ground. I'm going to come out super hot here in the draft season. And I am going to go on the record and say I'm not going to let a single person in the industry get higher than me on Mac Jones this draft season. Right now, I'm calling him a top 10 talent overall, and I'm not going to back off of that. So if anybody tries, I'll come right back over the top for the next 90 days.
No, I mean, I think that I came out of the week thinking that he won't make it out of the top 20. So, I mean, I think that'll basically become consensus. But as long as let's just talk it. Let's get into quarterbacks before we do, guys. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, please give the podcast a 5-star rating and review. We're going to be upping the content. We're going to be talking more about these rookies. We're going to be trying to get out traveling around and getting to see them, bringing you more of this stuff. But we need more ratings and reviews in Apple Podcasts. So please, 5-star rating, 5-star review. Just scroll down right now in your Apple Podcast app. Hit the farthest right 5 stars. And if you do, we'll get more podcasts out to you. We promise. All right. Quarterback, Mac Jones, Alabama. I think I want to let you talk about him, but I think that probably the context we should give is that, and I was tweeting back and forth with, I forgot who, somebody else in John Daigle from Roto World. And they were talking about Mac Jones and about how he had stood out. He had sort of risen this week. And I said, look, one of the reasons was because Mac Jones looked really good. And the other reason was he kind of stood out because it was the other quarterbacks were pretty bad. And, not to say it's the worst class we've seen in Mobile, outside of Mac Jones. You and I reminded ourselves we did see the Taj Boyd, Stephen Morris, Logan Thomas year. We did survive that one. But pretty bad outside of Mac Jones.
The kid from West Virginia, I'll still say to this day, had the worst Senior Bowl of them all. At the very best, he was down there with the Stephen Morrises of the world.
Will Greer, who your boy Frisco Josh called us out about on Twitter, saying we were donks.
He may have been the worst quarterback I've seen in 10 years attending the Super Bowl. And the more I've thought about it, Mac Jones may really, in fact, be the best quarterback performance I've seen in 10 years at the Senior Bowl. The only guys I can put up there with him.
What about Josh Allen?
Guys. Well, you hated Josh Allen at the Senior Bowl, and I love Josh Allen.
Well, you love Josh Allen. If you loved him at the Senior Bowl.
I loved him all along. if you want to talk Josh Allen, though, I mean, the Senior Bowl performance was up and down. It was a projection from there. There was a lot I loved about him. The only guys that I can put up with Mac Jones in terms of quarterback performances in the decade I've been attending the Senior Bowl are Russell Wilson and Baker Mayfield. Those are the three guys that have had the best weeks of practice in the 10 years I've been attending the Senior Bowl. And Mac Jones, I think, honestly, it could have been the best of those three. By the way, he's got much more of an NFL body than either of those guys. We already talked about it, the scrambling ability. He was in command and sharp from the very first snap. His accuracy was uncanny. It's not a monster arm like Josh Allen, but it's more than enough. It's more than enough arm. I fell in love with Mac Jones, dude. Fell in love.
Well, the Kip C in the chat is asking if Felipe Franks is draftable. I don't think he's draftable. I think he sucks. I think he was the worst quarterback there. You think Franks was from Arkansas the worst quarterback in attendance?
I don't think any of the quarterbacks are draftable.
Oh well, they're gonna be drafted. Kellen Mond will be drafted. Ellinger will be drafted.
They're all terrible
Jamie
prospects.
Newman will be drafted.
All terrible prospects. Terrible prospects.
And do you know what?
It
hurt our ability to be able to evaluate as well some of the pass catchers, especially on whatever the Miami coach team was. And that whole thing, switching it from North and South to American and National, it still messes me up. Do you know which one's which at this point? I still don't even know.
National was Flores and American was Rule.
Okay.
I love that they made the change. We should take a second to mention that both coaching staffs impressive. We like both those head coaches a lot. Rule really stood out as a guy that, I mean, he likes to coach these kids up, man. And he wasn't playing around. He ran a high energy practice, a very tight ship. Very, very impressed with both staffs, but Matt Rule really, really stood out there. Thought it was worth a mention.
Listen to this. We have some dumbass on Twitter, Matt B from CA, saying, I'm only giving you a 5-star review if that's what I think you deserve. I hate it when I'm told to give you a certain review. I've been listening to the podcast for 45 seconds. So I'll tell that guy, if you're listening right now, turn off the fucking show and fuck off. Okay. We don't want your review. We don't want you to listen. We don't want you to follow us. In fact, I'm going to block you on Twitter. Okay. Let's get back to it. Here's the thing, Matt B from CA. We fucking go around giving you this shit fucking content for free. We take the money that our business makes and we fly out to the goddamn Senior Bowl. We fly to these pro days. We do all this fucking bullshit. You get it for free on here. We ask you all you can do. If you're going to fucking freeload on the content, is give us a fucking good rating and a good review. Thankfully, we have a bunch of subscribers who do appreciate what it is that we do. It's motherfuckers like you who get me pissed off and make me want to put all of our content behind a paywall. So you can fuck off, suck a big bag of dicks. We'll continue doing good work for all the rest of our subscribers. Anyway, anything else on the quarterbacks?
Nope. Mac Jones is a stud.
Yeah. Let me block this asshole on Twitter just real quick.
I always like mentioning, I mean, it applies to all these guys, that being a great prospect doesn't always necessarily translate to becoming a great NFL player. And that's what we're here to evaluate, is how good of the prospects all of these guys are. And I'm not hedging at all. I mean, Mac Jones is a stud, but I think that whoever passes on him is going to be very regretful.
He's awesome, man. To me, with Mac Jones, it was his touch, it was his accuracy, like you said, his command. I didn't really notice as much with the agility, but I left practice a little bit early on Thursday before I saw any of the scrambling stuff and the red zone drills. But his ability to manipulate the pocket, his agility within the pocket, I don't think that he's a guy that completely needs to be thought of as like this statuesque. You're not going to confuse him for Michael Vick, but I also just don't think you're going to be confusing him for Drew Bledsoe or something like that.
And he's a guy who can come in and start almost from day one, in my opinion.
Yeah. If you put him in the right system, yeah. I mean, you could put him in the right. He's smart. That's the other thing. He's a straight A student. He's smart. He picks things up fast, and Yeah.
It was a better Senior Bowl than Herbert last year even. I mean, these guys are all studs. We've seen monsters come out of here. And this isn't determinative of him being better than those guys when it's all said and done. But that's what we're talking about here, folks.
Okay, running back, Najee Harris was there out of Alabama. It was clear. I mean, you look at him, and he's got a body. Like Byron kept on saying, he's got a body that looks like Adrian Peterson. You know, there are people that are comping him in the Dynasty world to, you know, Matt Forte, because he's got that, you know, dynamic pass catching ability plus the ability to run between the tackles. He has terrific vision. It's the forward lean that we noticed at the beginning of practices. Now, what Najee Harris did was he would not go through the drills after they got done with doing the early team stuff where they go like 50, 75%, right? So not quite walkthrough participation for Najee Harris, but somewhere just a little bit above walkthrough level participation for him. But even just seeing him do that was, you saw everything that you wanted to. The lateral quickness, the way that he moves his feet, and the explosiveness to the hole, the forward lean, the contact balance. He's the all-around package. I'm pretty sure he's the 101 in Dynasty rookie drafts this year. So clearly, you know, he's the best of the bunch. But then after that, you know, there's a bunch of interesting guys, and I'd like to get your thoughts. I mean, I know that we both really like Larry Roundtree from Missouri.
Third.
Yeah, the third. Larry,
always
is he the third?
Okay. Larry Roundtree the third.
Larry Roundtree the third from Missouri. Yeah, he wasn't on anybody. Sure wasn't on our radar coming into this thing. Not on a lot of radars. People thought maybe he's a little bit of a low upside type of player. I thought he showed some explosiveness and some burst and some really good vision. Down in the red zone drills, he was one of the guys that just seemed to always fall forward and get in for the touchdown. He follows his blocks so well, especially in those power and gap schemes. The guy what's the light blue North Carolina helmet? What's his name?
Michael Carter.
Michael Carter. He's a good little player too, man. The one issue, really good in the passing game, pretty dynamic with the way that he can move, but he's just so bad in pass protection. And I just wonder with that guy, it seems like he's going to, Byron kept saying like, maybe he's a James White, but we're like, dude, you can't be considered a James White here at the Senior Bowl if you can't pass protect like James White did that one year that he was here, I believe 2014. So, maybe more of a DeAndre Washington was your comp. I thought that was an interesting comp. It feels like people are kind of saying that he's a for sure day 2 pick, which I'm not completely convinced of with him. To be honest, I wasn't completely blown away by any of these running backs not named Najee Harris, but I thought that Roundtree was the best of the bunch.
Yeah, I was pretty blown away by Roundtree. 5'10", 216. He looked explosive, was very versatile, 3-down capability. I can't wait to see how he tests. He'll be one of those guys that will be watching very, very closely to see how he tests. If he tests well, my comp for him will probably be like a Keyshawn Vaughn type, which, for me, that's a very meaningful comp. I know there's a lot of people still waiting to see what that looks like in the NFL. We saw a glimpse of it there at the end of the season where he looked very, very good with the touches that he did get at the end of the regular season. But, I saw a guy that really has it all. And, if you remember, Vaughn was kind of the top running back coming into the Senior Bowl class before he pulled out last year. So I think that's the kind of player we're looking at. Sounds like a day 2 pick, a guy that if you tell me he's ever going to get a known amount of touches in the double digits, I'll want to start him in fantasy. And if he's a guy that I know is involved early on in his career, I'm going to want to own him in fantasy. So I think that Larry Roundtree is a dynasty sleeper that every listener right now needs to put on their watch list and remember that we told you about him. Michael Carter. So, we don't treat it as the holy grail, but I always do like to go look back and look at this because it's been meaningful in the past. I like to see every week who the players vote in as the top practice player of the week at each position. Michael Carter was voted the top running back of the week from his squad by the defenders that went up against him. And what I saw with Carter was I can see why he's projected. I'm not saying the value's there, but based on the way that they used him in practice, pretty clear to me that that was a guy they were really interested in. The NFL is interested in.
Oh, yeah. I think
so that day 2 thing is not a big surprise to me. I'm with you. I don't know if he's got the size or the elite burst to be a significant player in the NFL, but I think he's the kind of guy they're very interested in, they want to use. He had a good week. I know he struggled in pass protection. I thought, to be fair, it was worth pointing out that he was trying. He wasn't just like shying away from it necessarily. I thought he was getting in there and trying, especially as the week progressed, which is something that we look for. So
he wasn't trying, he was holding.
Yeah, there was definitely some holds in there. So Carter, I thought it was close with Khalil Herbert out of Virginia Tech, who another guy I think is going to be very, very important.
The Virginia Tech guy, yeah.
To see how he tests is going to be very, very important. He's a guy that I think might surprise us with his numbers at Pro Day or Regional Combine. And it'll be interesting to see because he showed a lot of versatility and was really able to kind of create some plays in space, was good in all 3 phases. I think his hands were a little small if you looked at his measurements. Didn't really have the body type you were looking for. And then interestingly enough,
I think he had like 8.5 inch. I think he had like 8.5
little bit small hands.
Kenneth Dixon hands on him.
Little kindergarten hands. So, then the other surprise to me, really, he finished up very, very strong on day 3. So maybe this shouldn't have surprised me. I think he's an undersized prospect, probably not that meaningful in the NFL. But from the other squad, it was Kylan Hill, who was voted as running back practice player of the week. So which is
weird to me. He's the Mississippi State one, right? 5'10", 214 pounds. Isn't that weird? Is that a little weird to you? I saw the Senior Bowl tweet that last night, and I looked through my notes and I couldn't find much about him.
Yeah, he had a good day 3. He did have a good day 3. He's still not a guy that, most of these guys I think are going to be, backups. I didn't get the sense that Kylan Hill is going to be some standout player in the NFL, but he had a good day 3. And so for me, I kind of put him in that bucket with Elijah Mitchell out of Louisiana Tech, who kind of showed sneaky 3-down capability, probably a little bit undersized himself. I think we both thought that the kid from OU, Stevenson, showed 3-down capability, but just doesn't have the burst out there. He just doesn't have the burst to be an NFL player.
He doesn't have the juice, man. He just doesn't have the juice. I think anybody that was out there that was, what's his name, Randra Stevenson, I think anybody out there that was watching him couldn't help but come away a little bit disappointed in that guy. Because if you look at the way he looks like you're like, ooh, we could have something here. But he gets the ball, man. He's got the oatmeal pants.
Well, and I didn't want to forget about your guy, Trey Sermon, because he didn't participate. And I haven't watched the film yet, but I know you told me he had pretty standout college production, at least here recently. So I didn't want to, I know he can't really probably make the all Senior Bowl team as a guy who didn't participate at all, but I did want to make sure that like he's a guy I don't forget about because it sounds like an interesting prospect.
You guys can find the all Senior Bowl team over at rosterwatch.com. If you want to go check out our content, I'm not demanding that you check out the content. For any particular Matt B from CA out in the crowd that just wants to whine and complain about free shit and being told and feeling like he's being told what to do. I promise you, buddy, I'm not telling you have to go do it, but I'm inviting you if you'd like to go. You can go there to rosterwatch.com and check it out, but only if you want to and you feel comfortable doing so. Okay, what about at the wide receiver spot? I just saw a tweet from John Ledyard saying he's going to turn the volume off because Omari Rogers just got called Tyreek Hill-esque by Daniel Jeremiah.
I got to go pause this game real quick.
No, I didn't even know it's just now getting started. Oh shit.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to it's just now kicked off.
Okay, well look, we'll fly through receivers then. So you guys know that we're really going to the trouble of getting this out for you right now. So let's just go through wide receivers. Omari Rogers, Clemson, 211 pounds. He does not look it. Maybe that's why Daniel Jeremiah said he's kind of Tyreek Hill-esque. I don't have a comp for him. I think that there's no one like him. I really liked your comp of a small A.J. Brown.
which to me translates a little bit to a Deebo Samuel the more I think about it. I think he's a little quicker, but I think it's that same, ultimately a similar type of player. We said all week we didn't see a super alpha Cooper Kupp, Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel performance, but I think when it was all said and done, it's pretty clear Rodgers basically had one of those types of weeks, at least relative to this group. And even big picture, I just think I expect him to run well. If he does, you're going to look back and say good Senior Bowl, great measurables. This is a guy that you got to like. I mean, is he more than a good wide receiver 3 in the NFL?
Yes.
Maybe.
Yes.
Maybe, maybe it can be a 2. I think that's probably the ceiling on him. But I mean, we're talking about a pretty good player here.
What if you go, dude? If he went to the right place, like I love him, and I think that he's going to be more than a wide receiver 3 in the NFL. And if he tests well, it's absolutely wheels up. Dwayne Eskridge, who we know is going to test well, 4.35 guy. The fact is he's already a year older than CeeDee Lamb right now at this point, 10 months older than DK Metcalf. He had 5 years in college. He had 1 injury year. He had 1 year where he moved from wide receiver back to cornerback, back to wide receiver. I don't know why anybody would ever try and put him at corner, how dangerous he is with the ball in his hands. He'll break your ankle with his stems at the line of scrimmage. He will run right by you, and he'll catch it if you get it near him. These guys couldn't always get it exactly near him, but Dwayne Eskridge, somebody who I came away very, very, very impressed with. And I think we'll see whenever we get his combine, not his combine, but his pro day measurables. He'll be one of the wide receivers with one of the best speeds as far as everybody out there this year.
Yeah, I thought in a smallish wide receiver class that had a handful of good players, but not a ton of players that really blew me away, even though he didn't participate on day 3, which I would have liked to have seen. I at least thought Eskridge was next to Rodgers, the other guy that when he did participate kind of leapt off the field at me. So, he's going to be my wide receiver 2 out of the players that participated in the Senior Bowl there, Alex. And then, I kind of put him a little bit in the same bucket as your guy, Tylan Wallace, who also didn't participate in day 3. I would have liked to have seen more, but I just thought when I did see Eskridge go on the outside, it was a little clear to me that he kind of really popped off the field, maybe a little more than Wallace. So I kept Eskridge over Wallace, and then I slid Kadarius Toney right in there actually between the two at my number 3. He was one of the Senior Bowl wide receivers of the week as voted by the defenders on his roster. We thought he had a lot of KJ Hill. He's kind of a shifty, fast, downhill guy. I don't think he had a perfect week. I think he's kind of small, so I'm not sure what his overall upside in the NFL was. But I thought that he kind of rounded out the top 3. So I have it Rodgers, Eskridge, Toney, and then Wallace. And right after that, Shi Smith, I thought, I know you liked him. I thought he looked a lot like those other guys. Left me wanting occasionally, but it, was a good player to round out that top 5.
Shi Smith, South Carolina, definitely had the catch of the week early on. Got hurt in day 2 and did not participate he was basically participated for 1.5 practices. So I kept him out of my top 3. My top 2 were the same as Byron with Omari Rodgers and Dwayne Eskridge, but Tylan Wallace was my number 3. I understand that. I understand why you had Kadarius Toney there. He had a lot of, people are. Some people are putting him in the first round of their mock drafts and stuff right now. I don't think that that's gonna, necessarily come to fruition. But he's like Tylan Wallace. He in that and like Dwayne Eskridge. These guys played at both the Z and out of the slot. They were able to get mismatches in both spots. I just love Tylan Wallace's the dog he has in him, man. He's fearless over the middle. You can run him at Z, and you could have him run these drag routes and these dig routes and this stuff like that. I mean, when I did the write-up that our pro members can go check out, only if they want to, only if they're comfortable and it makes them feel okay. But they can go check out the Tylan Wallace write-up. I compared him to a Steve Smith because he has that same kind of dog, mentality. I couldn't tell whether or not I was letting some of my priors and the fact that I love Tylan Wallace so much, and just from what I've seen him do in the Big 12, maybe creep into my evaluation of him from the Senior Bowl. That could have been, that could be part of the case, but that's part of the deal with this evaluation stuff. we're taking everything that we know and putting it all together. So Tylan Wallace for me, pretty much right there in my top 3, and Shi Smith would be just right outside it as far as that's concerned. I don't think I would get to Kadarius Toney till maybe after Shi Smith, but I don't know, because there were the plays with Kadarius Toney, Byron. You could talk to people about how fast do you think he's going to run. Do you think he's a 4.3 guy?
He looks like he's at least a 4.4 guy. You know what I mean? And so, that's what's going to happen. A lot of, especially these undersized dudes, when it's all said and done, and you've got all your rankings in April put together and all this stuff. When you circle back on some of these guys, they're a little smaller, they're not sure about, or kind of tight, in your rankings because it's a deep class or whatever. Ultimately, you're going to look and see, like, all right, who ran fast? Because that does matter. You know what I mean? So. I think if I see, 4.4 for Toney is at least what I would expect. If he runs something like that, I think that is going to make him viable in, everybody's rankings. I thought the other guys that we're going to need to look out for how they test. These are players that could be risers if they test well. Frank Darby, I think it's Arizona State. Alex had a pretty good week out there and really finished strong. I like his body type. I like his energy. I think if he tests well, he's a sneaky guy. Dez Fitzpatrick, he's a guy that had a pretty good week. At his size, if somehow with his kind of rangy, if somehow he tests well, I think he'll be a guy to watch. We saw Demetric Felton that they kind of vacillated between running back and wide receiver this week. I think out of UCLA, certainly undersized, but I thought looked pretty good at the wide receiver position when they did use him there. I'll be curious to see how he tests. And then, do
you think he'll play running back or wide receiver?
I think he looks like a wide receiver, man. Yeah. But he could be kind of a gadget player and ends up in a no man's land. I think he's going to end up in a no man's land. But
I think he's going to be a Ty Montgomery. He's going to be a Ty Montgomery who the teams just don't know what to do with.
I thought he had a solid week, and I thought he looked like a player that they were pretty intent on, like, finding a way to utilize him, even though I know some weren't a fan of them splitting his time up that way. I think he's at least worth a mention. And then the dude that I thought won big on the outside at the catch point all week long, but I think he made a good point. We're probably pretty skeptical of how he's going to test, but a dude that could surprise us, Niko Collins out of Michigan. I don't think he's going to test well, but he made so many big plays at the catch point on the outside and in the red zone that if he's a guy that surprises us and even runs 4.5, I think you'll say, well, all right, I probably need to take a second look at Niko Collins.
If Niko Collins is 6'4", 215 pounds with a 79-inch wingspan, and who can make those Mike Davis kind of grabs on the sidelines, if he runs 4.5, that's going to be that'll be a game changer for him. I don't think he's going to run a 4.5 because I didn't see him separate one damn time all week long. So anything else on wideouts? Do you have anything on tight ends? And then we can get out of here and get to watching this game.
Yeah, I thought Josh Palmer from Tennessee finished strong. He's a guy that wasn't great early in the week. Maybe another dude to kind of watch, a deep guy. I thought Marquez Stevenson had a good week, Alex, but he's just too shrimpy on all his measurables. Unfortunately, just doesn't match up with the performance, so I kind of had to drop him. And then tight end, I think you and I agreed it was Trey McKitty with the, pterodactyl arms and 11-inch hands out of Georgia, that if you're a tight end junkie, he should be like your number one watch list tight end in Dynasty coming out of the Senior Bowl, of the guys in this Senior Bowl crop. A lot of buzz about Hunter Long, who also had very, very good measurables. I think kind of he was consensus number 2 behind McKitty. And then, I thought the top 5 rounded out with very close between Kenny Yeboah and John Bates. And then Noah Gray might have had the catch of the week for a tight end on day 3. I know that he was considered like a top 75 or 100 guy, I think, going into the college season last year by a lot of NFL scouts. But, as I understand it, it was kind of an underwhelming final college season for him. And I really didn't notice him until day 3. So I hesitated to push him too high. I know some people think he's kind of polarizing. So that's how I had the top 5: Trey McKitty, Hunter Long, Kenny Yeboah, John Bates, and Noah Gray coming out of the Senior Bowl crop of tight ends this year.
One player from the Senior Bowl this year, not named Mac Jones. You're an NFL team. You can add him to your team right now. Who's it going to be?
Omari Rogers.
All right, that'll be the pod. It would be Quinn Miners for me, but I know we didn't talk offensive line here on this pod. All right. Love you guys, man. We're going to get out, except for Matt B from CA. You can go fuck yourself. Peace.